Hello learners, welcome to our YouTube channel Learn to Explore. I welcome you all to our YouTube channel Learn to Explore. I hope you all are doing well and also studying. As you know, we have already started with the chapter 2 of class 12th Indian Economy book, which is Indian Economy from 1950 to 1990. So guys, welcome to Learn to Explore, and please don't forget to like, share, subscribe to our channel. So let's start with a quick revision of what we already did in the last class. In case you have missed the last class, go back to the playlist, link is given in the description below, and see the chapter 1st and chapter 2 first part video before starting this video. Then you will be able to understand it better. So let's start with a quick revision of earlier this chapter we already covered in the previous class. Chapter 2 is Indian economy from 1950 to 1990. So as India got independent recently in 1947, economic situation was not that much good. So we had to plan our economy. We need to take the development process faster. For that purpose, we come with the idea of first 5-year plans, and the first 5-year plan was initiated in 1951 with the objective of with the objective of focus on agriculture. Okay, so we followed this policy of 5-year plans up to 2017, but now we have Niti Aayog and it has different kind of functioning. We have already done the 3 forms of economic organization, among which India choose to opt with the mixed economy, where public and private sector exist side by side, and both price mechanism and central planning authority decide what, how, and for whom to produce. Guys, to know the full explanation of these things, kindly go back to the first part of this chapter and then come to this. The link is given in the description below for the complete playlist of Indian economy class 12. I hope you will be able to learn something from it. Okay, we also did the definition of plan. Economic planning. Economic planning means utilization of country's resources in different development activities in accordance with the national priorities. So this were we have already did. Then we also did the long term objectives of planning. The first objective was modernization, next was self reliance, economic growth, equity, full employment. These were the main objectives of planning, which have to be achieved in the long term. Then we also studied about the short term goals or objectives of planning. As the planning commission made the 5-year plans, there were some short term objectives for it and some the long term. Short term objectives varied from plan to plan, and as we already did in the chapter first, that India used some policies for land reforms, and we also promoted the use of HYV seeds. We bring the green revolution to help our poor peasants, marginal farmers. There were many reforms in agriculture sector, industrial sector. So in the last class we did up to the green revolution. So what green revolution is, let's take it again. Let's see it again. The stagnation in agriculture during the colonial rule was permanently broken by the Green Revolution. It refers to the large increase in production of food grains resulting from the use of high yielding variety seeds, which is HYV seeds, especially for wheat and rice. The use of these seeds required the use of fertilizer and pesticide in correct quantities as well as regular supply of water. The application of these inputs in correct proportion is vital. So the farmers could get benefit from these seeds required and reliable on are so the farmers are reliable on irrigation facilities and financial resources to purchase फर्टिलाइजर एंड पेस्टिसाइड। तो ग्रीन रिवॉल्यूशन क्यों लाया गया? क्योंकि बिकॉज देर वॉज स्टैग्नेशन कंडीशन इन एग्रीकल्चर, सो गवर्नमेंट प्रमोटेड द यूज ऑफ HYV सीड्स. For this, farmer needs the financial resources and irrigation facilities, the regular supply of water, because for the use of these seeds, the supply of constant water is very much vital for the production. Um, Let's go ahead. In the first phase of Green Revolution, approximately mid 1960s to 70s, the use of HYV seed was restricted to more affluent states such as Punjab, Andhra Pradesh, and Tamil Nadu. These were the states where the use of HYV seeds was more. Further, the use of HYV seeds primarily benefited the wheat growing regions only. सो स्टार्टिंग में क्या था, HYV सीड्स का जो प्राइमरली यूज होता था वो वीट और राइस के लिए हो रहा था, बिकॉज दे वर द क्रॉप्स ऑफ स्टेपल डाइट इन द नॉर्थ इंडिया, in the most of the part of India. Then in the second phase of Green Revolution from 1970s to 80s, the HYV technology spread to a larger number of states and benefited more variety of crops. The spread of Green Revolution enabled India to achieve self-sufficiency in food grains, and India no longer had to be at mercy of America or any other nation for meeting its food requirements. तो सेकेंड फेज में क्या हुआ, HYV सीड्स जो टेक्नोलॉजी थी उसका स्प्रेड हुआ टू द मोर नंबर ऑफ स्टेट्स, एंड इट ऑल्सो बेनिफिटेड द मोर वैरायटी ऑफ क्रॉप्स अदर देन wheat and rice. This spread in Green Revolution enabled India to achieve self-sufficiency in food grains, which was India's long-term goal or the objective of planning, कि हमें self-sufficiency achieve करनी है so that we are not dependent on any other nation for food anymore. So what were the achievements of Green Revolution? Guys, I am already told you and again repeating that I have made all these notes from your original NCERT books, and I have put it in the point format so that it may help you in the exam. You would be able to retain it for a longer time, and you would get all the important points all together, so you can rely on these notes. And in case you have any complaints, suggestions, improvements, or any queries, doubts, you can please ask in the comment section. I would like to answer all your queries, doubts, suggestions also. Thank you. So let's go ahead. Let's move forward to the achievements of Green Revolution. So first achievement was rise in production and productivity. As we already got to know that India got the self-sufficiency in food grains. Then the another benefit was increase in income. Next is rise in commercial farming. It also had impact on social revolution, as use of new technology, fertilizer, etc. helped the many farmers. It also increased the employment. It also lead to substantial rise in average productivity. So guys, these were the benefits or the achievements of Green Revolution, which started in during 1960s, so during the mid half of 1960s. Then also there are some limitations of Green Revolution. The Green Revolution was restricted to limited crops and areas, such as two crops, wheat and rice, and the growing states were Punjab, Haryana, UP, and Andhra Pradesh, means the most of the North Indian states. Later it spread to other states, but not that much functional for others, and also the use of HYV seeds was very limited to other crops than wheat and rice. Also, it helps only in the partial removal of poverty and not at the great level. It also neglected the land reforms. There were no more incentives provided to the farmers to use alternates of groundwater, as electricity is subsidized, so they consumed the groundwater very much, which led to the depletion of groundwater for the long term, and they are facing the problem since today also. Then the next is increase in income disparity between small and big farmers. It led to the huge inequality between the two groups. It also led to the ecological degradation. As I have said, the groundwater depletion was very high during the Green Revolution. And then hence here from here the debate started over subsidies. The economic justification of subsidies in agriculture is at present a hotly debated question. At present also this is a issue of debate. It is generally agreed that it was necessary to use subsidies to provide an incentive for adoption to the new HYV technology by farmers in general and small farmers in particular. But any new technology will be looked upon as being risky by farmers. So, subsidies are therefore to encourage farmers to test the new technology. Some group of economists or experts argued that subsidies are important to encourage farmers to test the new technologies, while on the other hand, the other group of economists point out that subsidies do not allow prices to indicate the supply of a good. When electricity and water are provided at a subsidized rate or for free, they will be used wastefully without any concern for their scarcity. Farmers will start to cultivate water intensive crops if water is supplied free. Although the water resource in that region may be scarce, and such crops will further deplete the already scarce resources. एक ग्रुप का कहना है कि सब्सिडी एनकरेज करती है फार्मर को न्यू टेक्नोलॉजी यूज़ करने के लिए, बिकॉज रिस्क इन्वॉल्व होता है तो फार्मर्स आर नॉट इंसेंटिवाइज टू यूज़ द न्यू टेक्नोलॉजी. जबकि दूसरे ग्रुप का कहना है कि सब्सिडी से क्या होता है, फार्मर्स इकोलॉजिकल डिग्रेडेशन का ध्यान नहीं रखते और जो भी चीज़ें उन्हें बाय कॉस्ट फॉर अ मॉनेटरी कॉस्ट में ईजी रहती है वो यूज़ करते हैं, चाहे उससे इन्वायरमेंट को नुकसान हो, सोसाइटी को नुकसान हो. नोबडी टुक केयर ऑफ इट. So these are the two arguments on the debate on the issue of debate for subsidies. Then next, coming to the next sector, that is industry and trade. Industry provides employment which is more stable than in the agriculture. It also promotes modernization and overall prosperity. For this reason, the 5-year plans place a lot of emphasis on industrial development. Industrialization plays an important role in economic development of any country. Also, industrially developed economies are economically prosperous. It is seen as all the developed countries are well off in their industry. So, what is the role of industrialization? Let's see. The industry helps to meet ever rising demand. It also raises people's income, living standard. It increases the potential for high growth. It is the key to high volume of exports, which can improve the balance of payment for any country. It provides more stable employment. It also leads to modernization as the use of new technology is encouraged through industrial production and innovations. Industrialization is also a precondition for the final takeoff of an economy. No economy can be a developed economy without developing its industry. It's a golden rule. It's a fact. Then there are also some problems that India faced during industrial development. So what were the problems? Let's coming to it one by one. The first is sectoral imbalances. Agriculture and infrastructure have failed to provide the support to the industrial sector. So there was sectoral imbalances. The next is regional imbalances, because industries were restricted to few states only. They doesn't reach to the rural India. They doesn't reach to the every corner of India. Then the industrial sickness, which raised the problem of unemployment. Next is higher cost of industrial product due to the lack of healthy competition. Then the next is dependence on the government. For reduction in tax or duty to make import easier, industries are completely dependent on governments. Then poor performance of the public sector discourages the industry. Then the underutilization of capacity, as many of the industries are still under public sector and they are underutilized. Increased capital output ratio. Capital it is increasing but not giving enough output to balance it, to make the equilibrium successful. And India, after seeing the so many problems in industrial development, India adopted the Industrial Policy Resolution 1956, which is also known as IPR 1956. in accordance with the goal of the state controlling the commanding heights of the economy, the IPR of 1956 was adopted. This resolution formed the basis of second five-year plan, which tried to build the basis for a socialist pattern of society. This second five-year plan, or also known as the Nehru Mahalanobis model, because the economist Mahalanobis gave this theory and suggested to promote the industries. So, guys, I hope you are able to understand what I'm trying to teach you here. In case you have any problem with my language, with my speech, or anything, if its screen is not visible properly, anything, please do let me know in the comment section. Then, what are the features of IPR 1956? It classified the industries. Industries were classified into three schedules depending upon the role of state. The first schedule, Schedule A, industries listed in Schedule A whose future development would be the responsibility of state. तो पहले शेड्यूल में कौन सी इंडस्ट्रीज थी जिनका फ्यूचर डेवलपमेंट की रिस्पॉन्सिबिलिटी स्टेट्स की है. Then the another group was Schedule B. 12 industries were included in the Schedule B. Private sector could supplement the efforts of the public sector, with the state taking sole responsibility for starting new units. यहाँ पर प्राइवेट सेक्टर को इजाज़त थी कि वो पब्लिक सेक्टर की हेल्प से इस इंडस्ट्री में काम कर सकते हैं, लेकिन स्टेट की ही ये रिस्पॉन्सिबिलिटी थी न्यू यूनिट स्टार्ट करने की. देन द शेड्यूल C had other residual industries which were left open to the private sector. तो जो इंडस्ट्रीज ऐसी थी जिनको फुली परमिशन थी या फुली अलाउड थी बाय टू बी ओपन बाय प्राइवेट सेक्टर वर kept under the Schedule C. Then the IPR also stressed on the role of cottage and small scale industries. It encouraged to the production of cottage and small scale industries to promote the employment in all over the countries. Then the next was industrial licensing. Industries in the private sector could be established only through a license from the government. Then the next was industrial concessions were offered private entrepreneurs for establishing industry in the backward regions of the country, such as tax rebate and concessional rates for power supply. It is to encourage the industries in the backward regions of the country. Then we had the small scale industry. In 1955, the Village and Small Scale Industries Committee, also known as Carvey Committee, noted the possibility of using small scale industries for promoting the rural development. This Carvey Committee suggested small scale industries for promoting the rural development, because any small scale industry is defined with the reference of minimum investment allowed on the assets of a unit. This limit has changed over a period of time. With a very few investment, small scale industry can be started. So they suggest to promote small scale industries for the rural development. Small scale industries are more of labor intensive. Means they use the more of labor, human labor, in compared to large scale industries. Therefore they generate more employment, which was the need for the country at that time. Then these industries cannot compete with the big industrial farms, so it is obvious that development of small scale industries required to be shielded from the large firms. For this purpose, a number of products were reserved for the small scale industries, the criteria of reservation being the ability of these units to मैन्युफैक्चर द गुड्स. जो चीज़ें रिजर्व की गई थी स्मॉल स्केल इंडस्ट्रीज़ के लिए, उनका क्राइटेरिया क्या था कि ओनली इफ़ यू हैव द एबिलिटी to manufacture this good, you can start with the small scale industries. They were also given concessions such as lower excise duty and bank loans at lower interest rates, so that we can promote more of the small scale industries and further the rural development. Then let's coming to the next sector, which is public sector. Public sector consists of all industrial and commercial enterprises which are owned by government and managed by the government or itself or by other agencies on behalf of the government. सो पब्लिक सेक्टर क्या होता है, इसमें वो सभी एंटरप्राइज हैं जो इंडस्ट्रियल और कमर्शियल हैं, आर ओन्ड बाय गवर्नमेंट, मैनेज्ड बाय गवर्नमेंट or any agency which own this enterprise on behalf of government. So what is the role of public sector? Let's see. uh, a lack of capital with the private entrepreneur होता है जब मतलब कैपिटल प्राइवेट एंटरप्रेन्योर्स के सपोज प्राइवेट एंटरप्रेन्योर्स हैव लेस कैपिटल, सो गवर्नमेंट स्टार्ट the thing with the public sector. Also, the lack of incentive among private entrepreneurs demand due to limited size of market. So these are the roles. These are the things why public sector involved in the entrepreneurs, and why public sectors start some enterprise, why they start some industries. So because there is lack of capital with private entrepreneurs, lack of incentives, then socialist pattern of society where the aim of government is to generate employment rather than profits. So some sectors are not allowed to be operated by the private sector and they are owned by public sector. Also, it helps in development of infrastructure. It helps to development of backward class. It prevent concentration of economic power. It also promotes the import substitution. So guys, these are the role of public sector, how it helps the society, how it prevents the monopoly, how it incentivizes the private entrepreneurs to work with the government or in the enterprise managed by the government or on the behalf of government. So I hope you are clear with this. So from here we will be continuing the next class. In case you have any doubt, you can ask. In case you think you have missed anything, go back and watch the video from starting to end again. You can also watch the chapter first video available in the same playlist, part first of this second chapter, and then this video. So guys, thank you. Please don't forget to like, share and subscribe to our channel, and also do let me know in the comment section in case you want anything else, you want me to improve anything, or in case you like anything, you can tell me. So from here we'll continue in the next class. Till then, please keep revising, stay tuned, stay safe. Thank you.